As Joel said, my name is Todd Bottger. I work also in the database division here at Oracle Corporation. Thank you very much for the invitation, Joel, to speak today. I'm delighted to speak with you about some very exciting news coming out of Open World 2019, and that is the launch of our new free tier in Oracle Cloud, including always free services, such as always free Oracle Autonomous Database with Apex. We're going to go into a little bit of detail on this today. I did try to time this so that there's, this is office hours, right? So I tried to time this so there's plenty of time for questions, have some discussion, have, more of an interactive forum. All that said, I do have some prepared content that I think will set the stage and answer many of your questions. And I divided this up with 15, maybe 20 minutes on the free tier generally, some important characteristics of it to know and to be aware of, some things that you can do with it, use cases and some tips and best practices and so forth. And then about 15 or 20 minutes all about new always free autonomous database with Apex. And we'll get into some tips, best practices, and a fair amount of detail on that topic as well. As we're going along, feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions over chat. I believe Joel and others will be monitoring the chat box. You can save your questions to the end, or you can jump in during the presentations. I'll kind of leave it up to you, but I think we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. All right, so just by way of background to kind of set the stage here, I wanted to describe free things that are available on Oracle Database for Oracle Database developers historically and are still available now. And there's just a whole load of things that out there that you may or may not be aware of. We have, for example, we have given away a free version of Oracle Database for anyone to use for many years now. It's called Oracle Database XE, and I put the link there. This is easy to download and install wherever you like. It runs great on a laptop. You can install it on a workstation, in a virtual box, in a cloud VM, wherever you want to run it. And it gives you a very full view of all the Oracle Database functionality, including the Enterprise Edition functionality. That's all there along with XE. Of course, it does have some caps in terms of resources and storage and so forth. We still have to pay our bills. We're not giving away the whole company for free, but it has some I think it's capped at 12 gigs of storage in its current release. But it does have all the functionality. You get a broad swath of the functionality. So it's a great way to get a look at what Oracle Database can do, and you can run it anywhere. We also give away a whole range of database client technology, and I'm not going to go into detail on the whole list here, but maybe just to zero in on one of these. Probably many of you have heard of SQL Developer. This is an IDE for database developers for developing and debugging SQL statements and PL SQL scripts and so forth. It also has some interesting administration capabilities as well. So a very useful IDE for anyone who's doing development on top of Oracle Database. I think last I heard we were up to around 5 million active users on SQL Developer, and we have some metrics that help us track that. So widely used and very valuable. Along with that is SQL Developer Data Modeler you can use to actually visually model your data, create your ERDs and so forth. And just huge value that we give away for free as part of the Oracle Database. And this, frankly, I'll tell you that I've kind of scratched my head about this a couple of times in the past where if this was a standalone business, that alone could be, a business with a high valuation and a celebrated IPO, and all these things could be a huge profitable business just on its own. But we give it away for free because we want to enable developers to build on top of Oracle Database. We have language drivers for all the popular languages. We provide plugins for the popular IDEs to go access your Oracle Database, power tools and utilities. Maybe you're familiar with SQL or SQL+. We give away some important technologies that go along with the database as well. We have a technology called ORDS, Oracle REST Data Services, that provides REST endpoints, REST-based access to your data running an Oracle database. completely free. Anyone can download and install it. You can install it on XE, you can install it anywhere. Recently, along with ORDS, we're now packaging with that a web-based version of SQL Developer Web, again, completely free. For this audience, you're well aware of Apex. I won't spend a lot of time on that. You know, that Apex is another free thing we give away as part of Oracle Database. You can install it anywhere and, you know, rapidly create beautiful looking low-code apps on top of your Oracle Database. And then we have, in the cloud, in terms of hosted services, we have been giving away Apex workspaces. So you get an Oracle Database schema and an Apex workspace running on top of it completely for free. You can go to apex.oracle.com or oracle.com/apex, very quickly and easily sign up. All you really need is a name and an email address. You don't have to enter a credit card or anything like that, and you get a free Apex workspace. So this is a very popular service. We have tens of thousands of active users. We're signing up people every week. It's been around for a number of years. I believe, and Joel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're going on 2 decades now. So this hosted Apex service actually predates Amazon AWS by a number of years. So it's been around for a while and very popular. More recently, we've done live SQL. This is a very quick, easy scratch pad you can jump on and start working with SQL statements and PL SQL scripts, and then share your work with others in the community and create tutorials. And it's a nice place for just quickly working with the Oracle Database technology. In our cloud, we have for some time now offered these time-bound free trials of the cloud where you can create paid services, paid cloud services running in Oracle, bona fide services running in Oracle Cloud, using an allocation of free credits that you get just for signing up. There is a time expiry on that. It doesn't last forever, so it is time bound. And this is analogous to free offerings you see from other hyperscale cloud vendors, Microsoft and Google and so forth, where you get some free credits and you can provision paid services for some period of time. Now that's been great. We've had some positive response with this, but we really wanted to take that to the next level. Not just give you time-bound credits, but give you useful services for that you can start building on immediately that are free for an unlimited time, that are just free forever as long as you want to use them. So that's what we announced at Oracle Open World. This is the big announce. Our chairman of the board and chief technology officer, Larry Ellison, announced this in his kickoff keynote on Monday of Open World last month, and to some fanfare. And what this is first of all, you see some new terminology, some new language. We are, for the first time, using the terms free tier. We're actually calling it free tier. And again, this is common terminology in the industry now. You see that used other hyperscale cloud vendors. We're just going with what is the common terminology to make it easily identifiable for Oracle users. So we're calling it Oracle Cloud Free Tier. And that rolls up 2 important things. One is the previous trial program, where you get some free credits for a fixed time to spend on paid services. Also, as you burn down those credits on the paid services, you burn them down at highly reduced pricing. So you get more life, more use out of those credits. And that's still there and still useful. I think particularly useful for experimenting with performance and scalability characteristics of the services, because you can actually burst, you can have multiple CPUs, larger storage sizes. You can kind of see how things scale using those credits. And then the new thing that we're very happy to announce is the addition of these always free service shapes that are available for an unlimited time. And Autonomous Database is included in that. These new always free shapes are mirrors of their paid service counterparts from a functionality standpoint. So you get a broad view, a broad swath of the functionality, but they do have some caps in terms of resources. Again, we can't give away the whole thing for free. We have to pay our bills. So they do have some caps in terms of how much you can store, how many OCPU you get, and so forth. But the good news is they're available free as long as you want to use them, and they have all the functionality. They're virtually identical to the paid services with very limited differences, in certain cases. In fact, I'll highlight any differences that exist later in the presentation. But for the most part, they're very similar to the paid services. So the intent here is to let a developer jump on the cloud very quickly and easily provision some always free resources without any worry that their work building with those free resources is going to suddenly vaporize on them at some arbitrary 12-month time frame or something like that, right? You can just continue building and continue working with these free services as long as you want to use them. So both of these are now part of Oracle Cloud Free Tier and available through a single sign-up and a unified experience at the URL shown here on the slide. And if you remember anything from this presentation, I guess that's probably the single most important thing is this URL. You can go here and you can read details about Free Tier. There's a pretty comprehensive FAQ that answers a lot of questions. It describes the new always free shapes, and it describes the free trial with free credits offering. And there's a nice video, it does a pretty good job of laying things out. So take note of that URL. That's the thing you probably want to go back to and check out. All right, so let me pause there before I go to the next piece and just see, Joel, any questions, anything coming through on the chat that you think I need to elaborate on a little bit before we move on?
I think you're going to cover some of this shortly. So people have asked, why should we use this versus apex.oracle.com? Since we can install XE and SQL Developer, why should we use the Oracle Cloud solution? What's the benefit? So I think you're going to cover this. Yeah, okay. Great questions. We'll circle back to that. And the short story is you get more with the always free shapes. But apex.oracle.com is still there now. The hosted service is still there now. Try Apex, which gives you the preview of the next release, is still available now. XE is still available now. Those things are not going away imminently. They're still available for use, but you do get much more with the always free shapes, and we'll provide a quick view of that as we go along. Okay, so what exactly is included in this free tier at launch? This is a quick summary of what you get. And this is a snapshot of a static point in time. We are, of course, planning to add things to this over time. We already have some things in the works. So you can expect to see more things show up on this list over the coming quarters and years. But this is what we launched with a couple weeks ago. This is the first out. And it is led by our premier database offering, our autonomous database, which you may have heard of. So that's kind of the featured, the lead hitter here is we're giving a generous allocation of our free autonomous database as part of free tier. And I want to point out too, this is different than other hyperscale cloud vendors you may be familiar with. I'll just take one. Amazon AWS, for example, their quote unquote premier database that you hear a lot about these days is Amazon Aurora. And unlike what you get with Oracle Cloud Free Tier, where we're giving you our best stuff, Amazon deliberately withholds Amazon Aurora from their free tier, right? They deliberately exclude it from free tier, so you cannot obtain it in any sort of free shape at the moment. So, some stark differences as you're comparing what you see here to some of the other vendors out there. In terms of Oracle Database, you get two database instances. You get two free databases, not just one. They're not metered, by the hour. They're just available as long as you want to use them. So you don't have to watch your hours and make sure you're not going over your usage hours as you do in some of the other clouds. They're just available as long as you want to use them. You get 20 gigs of storage, and I want to point out too, this is running on Exadata, just like our paid service. Our always free services are also running on our premier engineered system, our hardware software platform. You may be familiar with Exadata. So this is 20 gigs of Exadata storage, lightning fast storage. You also get up to one core of Exadata for each of these databases. So up to one OCPUs, we call them Oracle CPUs, and those have multiple threads. I believe it's 2 threads per OCPU.
So you can consume up to a full core on Exadata too, and these aren't just any cores. They're super powerful compute platform. So as you add that all up, it's a fairly generous amount of always free resource to run your always free Oracle Autonomous Database. Complementing that, you get some free Oracle Cloud Infrastructure IaaS and PaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service and Platform as a Service. So these are some complementary things that are just pretty obvious that folks might want to pair along with Autonomous Database. You get some free compute VM. You get 2 free compute VMs, 1 gig of RAM each. You get a bunch of storage. You get 100 gigs always free of block volume. And those, obviously, those can be boot volumes for your VMs. Your VMs are going to need boot volumes. So you get a big chunk of boot for your VMs. You also get 10 gigs of always free object storage running in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and 10 gigs of always free archive storage running in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You get a load balancer, so you get the 10 Mbps shape of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure load balancer. So it's nice to have a load balancer in front of your VMs. You get a helping of networking data egress, as is common practice in the cloud. Inbound data is very cheap and or free, but outbound data is where cloud vendors that you will get charged for that typically. We give you a good big chunk of outbound data transfer as well along with this, and then you get some OCI monitoring service and some OCI notification service, kind of rounding out the bundle that lets you build, learn, explore, and build for free as long as you want to. So that's a quick look at what you get and what are the specs. Now I wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit and just tell you a little bit about how we implemented this new free tier and what's going on behind the scenes. And I don't know, this is a little bit of an eye chart. I attempted to abstract it a little bit to make it easy to understand. See the smiley faces and so forth. The stuff that's in gray is what was already there in Oracle Cloud, right? We already had a time-bound trial with free credits. We already had paid services that you can consume using those free credits. We already had something called a paying status, where you've finished your trial and you're now a bona fide customer. So we already have the things that are in gray. What we added was what's highlighted here in red. So first of all, you see the small boxes that are contained, titled Always Free Services. We added a whole bunch of these new Always Free Service shapes to each of these cloud account states. So you get the Always Free Service shapes during the trial period. You get the Always Free Service shapes while you are a paying customer. And we grandfathered this into a whole bunch of our existing paying customers as well. We want to take care of our current customers, so we gave them the Always Free Services too. And then at the top right, as you can see, we minted a brand new cloud account state, a whole new state for cloud accounts, whereby if your trial finishes and you elect to not upgrade to paying status, you can still use your cloud account indefinitely, and you can still use these always free services indefinitely. So we created a new state of cloud accounts in our cloud, and some state changes, to go along with that. So it's not just trial period and then paying status or over. It's trial period. You can upgrade to paying status at any time if you want, or you can just let your trial expire and continue using exclusively the always free stuff as long as you want to use it. And of course, individual users can come in and sign up for this on their own through the web. We'll show you that in a moment. You can work through an Oracle sales rep. Oracle sales reps can help you navigate this, and they can do some extra things for you in terms of free credits and duration of the trial, and they have some discretion in terms of giving you even more stuff. So those are the smiley faces on the bottom. All right, so that's a little bit about what is new and different and what we added behind the scenes. So you might ask, where in the world is this available? Where can I get it? And this is important in today's environment with increasing regulation, increasing regulatory scrutiny, and it's important to know where exactly this is available. And in Oracle Cloud, we added a whole bunch of data centers just this year. We've got a very aggressive roadmap for the next 12 months, adding a whole boatload of more data centers.
But let me show you where things are at right now at this point in time. And I'm going to just go to this URL. This is another URL to remember, oracle.com/cloud/data-regions-html. And this will tell you service by service what's available and where in the world and what data centers you can go to get it. So I'm going to just zip over there. We'll show you that really quick. It's our first demo. There we go. Okay, and up the top you can select tabs, North America, EMEA, and you can kind of tab through the different regions. This is EMEA, and you see now we list our new always free service shapes right at the top because we know a lot of people are going to be interested in them, so we list those. We feature those right at the top, and then you can go down to our regular paid services and you can see where those are available. And it's a longer list here because for the paid services, we're also showing the Gen 1 data centers. So we have a lot of customers who are still on Gen 1 and in the process of transitioning to Gen 2. So there's more columns here because we show Gen 1 and Gen 2. And you can see service by service what state of transition it's in. We're in the process of taking our Gen 1 services and porting them over to Gen 2. So you can infer that just looking at these columns here, kind of what state it's in. Has it been ported to Gen 2 yet, or is that still in process? For the always free, these are only Gen 2 services. They're all Gen 2. They're only Gen 2 data centers, and you can get a quick look at what is always free. Here you can see our autonomous database offerings, transaction processing, and data warehouse. Here you can see your compute VM, your block volume, your object storage. And in EMEA, we can see that they're all available in all of our EMEA Gen 2 data centers, including Zurich, London, and Frankfurt. And we're rolling things out and putting things in new data centers and standing up new data centers all the time. You can see they're available in our LAD Gen 2 data center in Sao Paulo, in APAC, a whole bunch of places. In North America, it's basically Washington, D.C. area, Toronto area, and Phoenix area right now. But keep an eye on this because we're adding new things all the time, and we'll be standing up data centers at a rapid clip over the next 12 months. Okay, so that's where is it available. Now, okay, the next logical question, how do I get it? How do I sign up? Where do I go to get this? And again, this is the URL I pointed to, earlier. I'm going to now go here and give you a quick look at the sign up process. Okay. All right. And this is our home page for free tier. Little video. Take a look at the FAQ at the bottom. You can expand this. I think we're up to about, I don't know, 20 or so FAQ questions now. Lots of helpful information in the FAQ. And you see these buttons featured fairly prominently. Start for free. You can click on any of these buttons. That will get you going with the sign-up flow. I guess I should also point out, oops, Oracle.com. If I just go to the Oracle.com homepage and drop down here to sign into cloud, you can also start the sign-up flow from down here. So just click here to sign up. So that's another way you can fire up the sign-up flow. The sign-up flow is fairly straightforward. You can enter an email address. Let's say my sample email 123@gmail.com. You pick your country of origin. You click next. And then this is the more detailed form. You provide a few more details, standard stuff. Is it company or personal use? Some contact information. This one I want to draw your attention to here, cloud account name. So this is going to be the name of your tenancy, my sample tenancy 123. This is what you're calling your account or what you're calling your tenancy. And you're going to need to specify this when you subsequently log into the Oracle Cloud control plane. So you got to remember your tenancy name. This is also important, your home region. So when a cloud account is provisioned for you and you're getting free tier, every cloud account has a home, and you can later subscribe to other regions. They're called subscribed regions. So you can add other regions later. But there's always a home region for your cloud account. You pick it once at account creation time, and then it's stuck to the cloud account forever. That's your home region. So you want to pick this selectively. Obviously, you want to pick a region that's geographically, somewhat close to where you are and where you're going to be using it. We
we have not figured out a way to go faster than the speed of light. So, there is some latency as you're traversing planet Earth and so forth. You want to pick a region that's, relatively close to where you are as your home region. And I also want to point out too that the always free services, in particular, those only run in your home region. So this is important selection if you're planning to use the always free. They only run in your home region. The paid services can run elsewhere. You can subscribe to other regions and run them in subscribed regions at a later time, but the always free will run in your home region. So pick this strategically. Then you're going to enter your name, address, kind of standard stuff. And you may or may not be queried for a credit card and a mobile phone number, kind of depending on how you came into this flow. There's a whole bunch of users out there that are already known to Oracle because you've attended Open World, or you're a current customer, or you're a prospective customer engaged with an Oracle sales rep, or you went to one of our Oracle Code events. There's hundreds of thousands of people out there who are already known to us, and many of those people we whitelist. And in that case, you'll see a much shorter form. We already know who you are. We've already verified you. You don't enter a credit card. You don't have to do a SMS text verification. You don't have to do any of that. We don't want to bore you with that because we're already interacting with you. So you may see a simplified form depending on how you come into this and are you a recognized Oracle user or not. So from here, I'll click Next. In this case, I'm just a generic user coming in from the web for the first time. So I am going to get hit with the SMS text verification, and I'll probably get hit with a credit card verification after that. In this case, we will collect credit card, but only for the purpose of identity verification. We're not going to be charging you in this free tier, right? We're just doing it for identity verification. You might see like a $1 temporary authorization charge that then gets reversed, but you won't see other charges on your card so long as you stick with the free stuff. Anyway, so that's what signing up looks and feels like. Pretty straightforward. You can generally do it in about 1 minute. Not too slow. And you can see it's highlighting our free credits and our always free services here at the top. We made some updates to that for this free tier launch. Okay, so I think we covered all these steps. Start for free, enter email address, country select, and then possibly complete the identity verification steps, depending on whether you're a recognized user or not. Okay, is credit card required to sign up? This is another very common question. I think we covered that. If you're a generic person coming in for the very first time from the web, you probably are going to get hit with a credit card entry for identity verification purposes. If you're a recognized Oracle user, you probably won't. And that applies to, people who are engaged with sales, who are current customers, who went to an event. Also, I want to point out too, this is starting to be used by Oracle Academy. So Oracle Academy is an Oracle program that provides curriculum and free resources and actual instructors to colleges, universities, and high schools throughout the world. We have tens of thousands of students and educators enrolled in Oracle Academy now. And you see, topics like Java and relational database popping up in curriculums across the world. And this is going to be something that I think be very helpful to Oracle Academy because we're giving them many more resources now with our free tier. And of course, students and educators we're whitelisting. A lot of students, if you're an 18-year-old college freshman in Bangkok, you may or may not even have a credit card in the first place. You may be using your family's credit card or something. So we don't hit folks like that up for credit card in that case. And if you're an Oracle Academy, you're already a known and recognized user anyway. So okay, so that's a little bit more on what's required to sign up. Now another common question is, okay, great, I get these free credits, I get the always free shapes, but I'm still going to hit some kind of deadline here, right? Because the free trial piece of this is going to end at some point. It's going to expire. So another common question is, what happens as the trial period ends and I'm transitioning into this exclusively always free state? There's a little more detail on exactly what happens. If you do upgrade to a paid account and you enter into paying status when the trial period ends, the big change is at that point you're agreeing that, okay, if I do consume paid resources, Oracle may charge me for my use of those paid resources. So there's a click through, and there's an agreement that goes along with it, basically saying, okay, if I use paid stuff, Oracle can charge me now. I mean, that's the key change. So if you're upgrading to paid, you agreed that if you use paid stuff, Oracle can charge you to use the paid stuff. If you had free trial credits left over, you didn't consume them all on paid resources during the trial period, so there's some spillover. Those free credits will carry forward. So if you still have your 300 intact, you can still use your 300, your free 300, even after you've upgraded paying status. So then the second question is, what happens if my trial period ends and I don't upgrade to paid? Or in other words, I transition into this exclusively always free state. And a couple things occur there. Your cloud account, your core cloud account remains active and usable indefinitely. Any existing paid resources you had running using the free credits, those are soon going to get reclaimed or terminated because you're not a paying customer. They're paid resources. You know, the free trial period is over, so we do go back and reclaim the paid stuff. The paid stuff doesn't just run indefinitely. And you can't create new paid resources going forward, right? Because you've entered into this exclusively always free state. Existing always free resources, as you might expect, you know, those continue running. If you provision some always free stuff during the trial, they continue running after the trial. And you can continue creating new always free resources up to the allowed maximums during this exclusively always free state for as long as you want to use them. And of course, as long as you stick with always free resources, which you are required to do in this state, you're not billed for usage, you're not paying anything. So that's a little more detail on these state transitions and what exactly occurs as your cloud account is going from state to state. Just, you know, heads up, this is what to be aware of. It's pretty logical, you know, if you sit down and think it through, it's you know, pretty logical stuff. I don't think we're doing anything terribly surprising here, but just so you have all the details, this is what's going on behind the scenes.
Hey, Todd, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make sure it's 10:33 now, and we definitely want to save roughly 15 minutes for questions because they are pouring in.
Okay. All right, I'll pick up the pace a little bit. I think we're just about done with this segment, actually. So another common question, how do I get support? You do get Oracle support. You get a CSI number. You get access to MOS during the trial period. If you go to this exclusively always free state, you transition into exclusively always free, you don't get Oracle support, you know, the full paid premier support, 24/7, people answering the phone and so forth. You don't get that if you're an exclusively always free only account, just using the always free stuff. But you do get access to free public forums like Cloud Customer Connect. You get a live chat box in the console UI. You get the documentation. You get other things. So you know, you do have means to go get questions answered even when you're in the exclusively always free state. Tips and best practices. Take a look at our 3-tier app. On the console homepage, there's a 3-tier app that will deploy into VMs, autonomous database, object storage, load balancer. It consumes a whole bunch of stuff. You can easily, you know, delete instances and back out of it, but it shows you a nice orchestrated, app running across lots of free resources. When you're signing up for a free tier, pick your home region strategically. We actually already covered that. And touch your always free resources once per quarter. So this is an important point. Let me dwell on this for just a second. You want to make sure that, you know, you're touching them at least once every 90 days, right? Because if free stuff that we're giving away is left fallow, you know, it's persistently inactive, never touched for months and months at a time, we will clean that stuff up. So you want to make sure that your stuff is never cleaned up due to inactivity. Touch it at least once a quarter. Do something to touch it. And before we ever do anything like that, we send you loads of advanced notifications. We show alerts in the UI. We try to get your attention and say, hey, please use this, go use it. So that, you know, your full disclosure, you're fully aware of what's going on and what's going to happen if you leave it unused for months and months at a time.
Sorry, Todd, since you're on this topic, I have the same question. What does touch mean?
Great question. So it's a little different from service to service. So touch means something different for object storage than it does for autonomous database. Let me describe autonomous database in particular. And this is in the end user documentation, by the way. I'll give you the doc link at the end. This is described you know, in some detail in the documentation. For the first couple of days, we're looking at things like, are you connecting to the database? Has there been an inbound connection over SQLnet from a database client, or an inbound HTTPS connection, originating from an Apex app, going through ORDs, going to the database. So we're looking at SQLnet and HTTPS, and are you making any connections? If you don't make any connections for a week or so the database is left fallow for a week or so, you might see it get paused. Sometimes we'll pause these databases. You can easily restart them with a single button click. Just restart it if you see it get paused. But if it's left fallow for a week or so, we might pause it. And then if it's left fallow for another couple of months, all the way up to the 90-day max, then at that point, what we're looking at is, after we've paused it, does it remain in a paused state for another several months? And if it remains in a paused state for another several months, we know for sure it's not getting used. And then at that point, we'll clean it up due to continuous inactivity. So initially, we're looking at connections to the database, and then secondarily, we're looking at, does it remain in a paused state? Does that answer the question, Joel?
I have a follow-up question, Todd. It's Doug.
Sure, Doug.
So do you have to touch each resource individually, or is touching, for instance, logging in or using an app that is based on the free service enough to keep all resources, quote unquote, active?
I believe you need to touch them individually. But if you're using this three-tier app, we have this sample three-tier app, that by default is going to touch a whole bunch of them all at once, right? And you can see this three-tier app on the console homepage. Go take a look at it. But yes, I believe they need to be touched individually. And I've seen some clever things on the web already. Dimitri had an interesting post whereby he was having his free cloud VM ping his free autonomous database, and then using an Apex web service call, he was having a free autonomous database ping back the cloud VM. So there's a virtuous cycle there, pinging one another, that guarantees the VM and the autonomous database are always used every hour of every day throughout the year, right? So, I mean, there's some clever things like that you can do. It's not too big a deal. The bottom line is, touch your always free resources individually at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
And by the way, I should point out too, this is common in the industry. This isn't unique to Oracle. Amazon does this in AWS, and if you read their terms of service for Amazon AWS free tier, it's buried quite deep in their terms of service, but they also have a 3-month threshold where if stuff is left inactive for 3 months, they'll clean it up. So in this regard, we're just kind of following the prevailing industry best practices. And just we're more open about it. We document it. It's actually in our end user documentation. We're more open about it. We're not trying to hide it from you.
Okay, Todd, one other relevant question on this topic is, will people be notified before their service is reclaimed?
Yes, there's an OCI notifications service. And I believe the cloud account owner email address is registered with that OCI email notification service by default. And then you get email notifications. But you can go back and unwind that. If you're getting spammed too much, you can go select what you want to be notified about and what you don't want to be notified about. But by default, I believe you do get emailed because we register you with the notification service. And we also, and if you find otherwise, please let me know. That's a bug. But I believe you get registered with the notification service by default. And we also show prominent banners at the top of the console in the UI. You'll see a banner that says, hey, this has been paused for almost 3 months. It's going to get deleted soon. If you want to keep using it, touch it. So you'll see a banner that says something along those lines. Or for the 7-day threshold, you'll see something that says, hey, it looks like no one has connected to this database for several days. We might pause it soon. If you don't want that to happen, please make a connection. You'll see these banners. Okay. Any other questions on that topic?
No, but it's 10:40 and we have a host of questions.
Okay. All right. So ATP and ADW are both included in this. Autonomous database comes in 2 flavors. There's a workload type. It's optimized for transaction processing and lightweight analytics. That's ATP. And there's another type that's optimized for heavy analytics and data warehousing. That's autonomous data warehouse. So
when we say autonomous database, it actually has two flavors of it, ATP and ADW, and you can run either of these as an always free. How do I get started with autonomous database? Maybe this is where I can save some time. Let me just show you this really quick. So I've got one that I'm going to sign into. This is one of my tenancies. I created a whole bunch of sample tenancies. This is the OCI console homepage. I'm going to just drill into autonomous transaction processing. You can see I've got one it was a paid instance that I terminated. My trial period's over, so this paid instance is done. I've still got my always, and they're clearly labeled with this little tag here, always free. I've still got my 2 always free instances running and not spending anything. You know, they're free. Let me drill in and show you a little bit about autonomous database. So, and this one is stopped because I haven't touched it in a week. We'll start that. This one is stopped. Okay, let me give it a minute to start. I'm going to come back to that. So once that's started, I'll come back and I'll actually show you this. Autonomous database, this is one of the reasons it's autonomous, right? It includes SQL Developer Web, it includes Apex, it's all packaged with the service, fully updated, maintained, patched, upgraded. You don't have to do anything. It's one of the reasons it's autonomous. Very nice. So you can log in and just instantly get access to a developer IDE, instantly get access to Apex, very easily connect to it from SQL or SQL+. You have to download a wallet. It has the client certificate in it. So you download that from the console UI or from the developer API. You can also use APIs to do this stuff. And then you can easily connect from one of our clients like SQL or SQL+. So that's what's included. Okay, so now it's up and running. I restarted it. And you see some generic information here. You see information like this for all your cloud resources, right? Is, you know, kind of general stuff, you know, what it's called, what, you know, type of instance. You'll see something similar for VMs as well. There's some database specific stuff here. This is kind of generic information. You can upgrade this instance from a free to a paid instance very easily. There's a link here, or you can go here, upgrade instance to paid. That will upgrade it from always free to something that will actually start consuming credits. So be careful about how you're doing that. We give you warnings before you're upgrading. So you see a warning box. It'll tell you to the exact paid SKUs that it's going to clone you to once you upgrade. So it preserves all your data and it does a physical clone of the instance. So I click here, this is going to drill me into some very specific autonomous database stuff. I see my dashboard, CPU utilization, running SQL. I can identify long-running SQL statements. Here I can see some administrative options. I can download the client credentials to make a client connection. This will give me my client certificate in a wallet. And if I click on the development tab, here's my built-in Apex, right? If I click on this, it's going to just fire up the built-in Apex. If I click on this, it's going to fire up the built-in SQL Developer Web. And we'll give that a second to load. I don't know, things are running a little slower this morning. You also get access to Oracle REST data services. You can start creating REST endpoints very easily on your database. You get a built-in machine learning notebook. And this tells you where to go get and load and install Instant Client. With that finished loading. So that pretty much covers everything here. We talked about how to upgrade. It's basically a single button click. You may need to reconnect from your clients after you upgrade because we're physically cloning from one SKU to another, but you can use the same wallet when your clients are reconnecting. Any differences between the free and the paid? So this is the list of differences. It's a pretty short list. No ability to scale beyond the fixed resource limits. So you obviously do have some resource caps, 20 gigs of storage, up to 1 OCPU. There's no built-in full database backups. So there's a very nice full database backup capability built into the paid service. Very slick, very fancy, and you know, a button click and you can back the whole thing up. So it's pretty cool. That specifically is not in the paid version. You have to, or not in the free version. You have to be on the paid version to get that. There's also a brand new preview mode where you can create it as a preview of 19C or later a preview of 20C. So you can like preview our upcoming releases.
That's only available in the paid service. And then as I mentioned, this is another difference. If you don't connect to it at all and it's a free instance, we may pause it at 7 days of non-use. The paid instances, we don't do that sort of thing, right? Only for the free instances. So this is all the differences I'm aware of. It's a pretty short list. They are, for the most part, they're functionally very similar to their paid service counterparts. And here we can see my Apex has loaded. And here we can see my SQL Developer Web. I'll just log in really quick, show you that. So this is a fully web-based, and of course I've entered the wrong one. Entered the wrong password. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm typoing the password, it's a long password, but it's a fully web-based IDE. You get something that looks very similar to the full SQL Developer client, except running in your browser. Tips and best practices. Okay, so this is important stuff too. Joel, I'm going to just cover this really quickly and then we're done. As you're using Always Free, we do cap the storage at 20 gigs, but because we include all the Oracle database functionality, you can use things like compression. So you can use advanced row compression in your ATP instance, and that will give you many more than 20 gigs of data, right? Typically for row compression, we can get between 2x and 4x increase. So you could store many more gigs just by using row compression in ATP. In ADW, in Data Warehouse, hybrid columnar compression is actually on by default. So if you have an always free ADW instance and you're loading data into it and you've got 10 gigs of CSVs or something that you're loading in 10 gigs in your ADW, and you go to the console and you see that you're only consuming 2 gigs of storage, it's because hybrid columnar compression is on by default in ADW. So you can actually pile many more gigs of data than just 20 into these services just by leveraging the compression capabilities. And then, although the fancy whole database backup is not there in the free instances, if you've used Oracle database, you know there are many ways to back up data from an Oracle database. So you may not get the fancy one that you get with the paid service, but there are many other ways to back up your data. I recommend using Oracle Data Pump. It's a proven, fast, easy way to back up. There's an example here. Just use the EXPDP utility. You can do like a schema level data pump export pretty fast. When you're talking about data sizes that are 20 gigs or less, this is pretty fast, and it's a good way to back up your data. So there's some tips and best practices. Just a little bit on our roadmap. We've got more things coming, and I'll just leave this up while we discuss. Here's a couple of useful links with QR codes. So with that, let's keep that in full screen. With that, Joel, I'm done. What other questions, comments do we have?
Okay, Todd, thanks. This is fantastic. Let's get going. So someone asked if they can use the Oracle Cloud free tier for a production environment, but then they want support in case of an incident. Are they able to use the free tier but have a separate support contract with Oracle?
Oh, so do we sell, I guess, like naked support for free tier? And the answer is no. So if during your trial period, while you're in that initial period with the free credits, you have a CSR number, you do get Oracle support actually during that initial period. But once that's over and you transition into this only using free stuff, then you don't have support at that point. Of course, when you're a paying customer, you do have support. And to your point about can I use this for production, the answer is yes. So we don't attempt to enumerate use cases in the licensing and then say, yes for this use case and no for this other use case and yes for this other use case. We don't attempt to do, sneaky things like that in the licensing. With the free tier, you can use it for whatever you like. But do keep in mind, for free tier, you're not going to have the premium paid Oracle support for free indefinitely. You don't have the same SLA as the paid services. You do have this stuff where if it's inactive for a long, long time, Oracle may terminate it. All those things, you don't have those with paid, in paid service. There are some important things to keep aware of. If you're okay, with that, you're free to use it in production or in dev or in test or demo or whatever you like.
All right, thanks, Todd. Yeah, the production has different meanings for different people. And so in a blog post I wrote the other day, I just said it can be used for real, whatever for real means to you, right? Okay, so here's the next question. And I'm going to bundle the 3 questions here together. So is the autonomous database in the free service HIPAA compliant? Does it conform to EU data privacy regulations? And is it Oracle Advanced Data Security available for the free tier? Because I was told you would need that for HIPAA compliance as well.
Okay, so that's 3 questions. Let me take a whack at them one by one. So free tier is available running in OCI commercial data centers. OCI does have other data centers. There's some government data centers for unique government requirements across the globe. There are HIPAA cages in various parts of our cloud, and the free tier doesn't run in government. I have to check on the HIPAA cages. I don't think it's available in a HIPAA cage, but let me circle back on that one. I'm gonna have to confirm that one. It's only OCI commercial data centers, which is the majority of the data centers. From a government standpoint, I do get questions from public sector. From a government standpoint, like, okay, can I use this free stuff because there's government requirements that require special billing regimes, monthly billing, billed in advance, not in arrears, and I get questions from public sector periodically. In my view, this is orthogonal to that because there is no billing, right? It's free as long as you use free stuff. There is no bill if you stick with the free stuff. So I'm happy to be corrected on that point, but I think it's suitable for government use because there's no billing, although it's not running in a specific government data center. It's in the commercial data centers. And then the last question, there was a question about advanced security. So advanced security with Oracle Database includes a couple things. It includes the data at rest encryption. It includes the network encryption. It includes wallet-based key management. There's a bunch of stuff incorporated into the advanced security option with Oracle Database. Much of that is turned on by default in Autonomous Database, not just the free version, but the paid version too. We do encrypt the data at rest using a wallet-based key. I believe it's a wallet-based key. So the data at rest is encrypted. And we do encrypt data in flight or data in transit over the network. We require you to use a wallet to connect in the first place. And that ensures that it's over TLS connection, it's encrypted end to end, and you're using a client certificate to do that. So much of what is incorporated into the advanced security option is being leveraged here by default as part of both the free and the paid Autonomous Database. Did I cover everything? I think I got.
There was a question about EU data privacy regulations. Does this conform to that? I probably shouldn't comment on that. I'm not the best person to comment on that. I don't know. Whatever we do for the paid service, we're not doing anything different in the free service. Let me put it that way. And for a more comprehensive view of paid ADB plus GDPR, I'd have to defer to one of our GDPR ADB experts. I'm probably not the best person to comment on it. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to the next one. And this is not only a general question for Apex on Autonomous Database. People ask, can you use a custom domain or a vanity URL for Apex on Autonomous? And even though this is coming for Autonomous Database later, let's say, will that be available for free, Todd?
Great question. So this is getting into roadmap, and oh shoot, I forgot to show the safe harbor slide. Whenever we do roadmap, we're supposed to show our safe harbor slide that says, we can't commit to this stuff. Like safe harbor included. Yes, vanity URL for Apex apps is on our roadmap for both the free and the paid service. That is in our roadmap. It's a topic of, shall I say, very active discussion right now. We would like to make that very easy to configure. We would like to make it very secure. So we preserve the core's headers. We don't create any cross-origin issues. It's integrated with our load balancer. It's likely to be integrated with the always free load balancer service. That's definitely something we are pursuing, and we hope to have Apex Vanity URLs coming soon, both in the free and the paid service. There are ways to kind of cobble this together on your own. You can do that now using Compute VM. You could put an Nginx reverse proxy in a Compute VM. You can use load balancer. There's various ways to cobble this together right now, but as I understand it, they all involve basically dropping the security header information and potentially creating cross-origin issues that the end user will get alerts about. So if you're okay with the end user possibly seeing some alerts, rewriting headers, and doing that sort of thing, I think there are ways to put that together right now, and I've seen some blog posts about it. What we're going to try and do is institutionalize this, not drop the headers, do something that's fully secure and just built into the service itself.
Okay, so it's coming for free. Thanks, Todd. I'm going to move to the next one. Someone pointed out, are the limits only 1,000 emails per month, or is that per day? And if you don't know, we can move on.
For the OCI notification service, actually, let me go back to that. This is the OCI notification service. I believe it's 1K per month. I'm going to have to check on that to confirm it. Or you can confirm it yourself. I believe that information is on the page. If you go to oracle.com/cloud/free, it provides the time intervals for the always free OCI notification service. Not just the emails, but there's other ways to get the notifications too, and I believe those specs are on that page.
Okay, next one here. And actually, a customer contacted me about this, that they signed up for the always free, and then someone else from Oracle sales contacted them and said, oh, you should upgrade because, quote, the always free instances can be deleted at any time by Oracle. So question to you, Todd, is that true or false? Can the always free services be deleted at any time without warning by Oracle?
Oh, I'm not sure who sent that message. Was that message from an Oracle salesperson?
It was.
Okay, so, it was probably coming from someone who had an incentive to, kind of advertise the paid services, which is fine, right? Hopefully it was not just chopped there. There was some context and some elaboration provided, because I guess technically that's true. As I mentioned, there's this algorithm we have that's looking for inactivity. And if it's left fallow or inactive for some very long period of time, yeah, it can be cleaned up. So I guess technically that's true, but just leaving the statement at that without any context or elaboration is probably not the right thing to do. I guess, and I'll add to that too, like any cloud vendor, we have fraud prevention algorithms that are running. We have fraud detection and fraud prevention algorithms. We're looking for people who are spinning up 1,000 of these, doing Bitcoin mining, or some such thing. We check for that. And if, we're very confident that things are being used for fraud, they can be terminated as well. But we're not going to go around just summarily terminating people's always free instances for no reason, right? It would generally be because it's been left inactive for some very long period of time, as described in the end user documentation, or because we're fairly certain it's being used for fraudulent or illegal activity.
Okay, thanks, Todd. I'm going to go on to the next one here. So it's 11 o'clock. Let's just go just a couple more minutes and then we'll have to terminate this if you don't mind. Somebody asked, is it possible to start with always free only and start the trial period later? Or when you sign up for the free, do both have to start at the same time?
That's a great question. That is not possible right now. Actually, the two entry points are start the free trial and get your always free along with the free trial, and then make your choice later whether to transition to a paying account or just stick with the always free. That's entry point number one. Entry point number two is to just sign up as a paying customer from the get-go, from the beginning. And as a paying customer, you'll get the always free service shapes grandfathered into your account as well. Those are the two entry points that I know of.
I don't believe there is an entry point where you can start with just always free and then do the trial later. Although it's an interesting enhancement request. I will take note of that.
Okay, thanks. Let's say 2 more questions here. And I know you addressed this, but I want to ask this again. Is my autonomous database backed up on the free tier? Because when I look at the console, it looks like backups are being created. So is this being backed up or is it not being backed up?
Great question. So when we say, I was talking about this special built-in backup capability that we did for the paid service. There's actually 2 pieces to that. There's an automatic backup that occurs daily, and you can see that in the UI. You can see that continuing to occur. And in paid users can restore from any one of those automated daily backups if they wish to. And then secondly, there's a manual full database backup that you can invoke at any time. You can just manually do a full database backup and then restore from that as a paid user at a later time. For the always free instances, the manual full database backup is not there. You don't have the ability to do the manual full database backup. The automated daily backup is still occurring. We leverage those for our own purposes. Our own cloud ops team leverages those in the unlikely event of a catastrophic event that takes out a data center or some such thing. We're still getting those daily backups even on the always free instances, and we could restore from them as the cloud provider, but you can't restore from them, right? So you'll see the automated backups still occurring, but you can't restore from them.
Okay, last question, and this is kind of a big one for you, Todd. Not really a question, but just to really get your feedback. As Andre and Sven and others have said here in chat and separately, you go from free to paid, and it's a huge leap. And there used to be this middle ground, Exadata Express, which was a bit more accommodating price-wise. I guess ultimately the question is, will Oracle ever consider a cheaper version of autonomous for limited use cases? They just feel that the chasm between free and paid is it's too great.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let me take that piece by piece, right? So the first is the quote unquote huge leap that you mentioned, Joel. So Exadata Express, the intro level price for Exadata Express, which we have stopped selling now, all roads lead to autonomous, for Oracle. That's the future for Oracle, the autonomous database. But if you're a current Exadata Express customer or a current schema service customer, you may be familiar with those services. Those are very low price points. You can get a really small schema service, 5 gigs, managed Apex, and I think it starts around $200 a month. In Exadata Express, similar story. You can get a very small Exadata Express. It starts around $200 a month. That does scale up. You can pay for a much larger Exadata Express instance. You can pay up to $4,000 a month, depending on how many OCPU you want and how much storage you want. But it starts low. It starts in the around $200 a month range. ATP, on the other hand, autonomous transaction processing, which would be the logical migration target. If you just look at list price, it starts at a little over $1,000 a month. So that's what I think you mean by huge leap. You could be going from between $200 and $4,000 a month to at least $1,000 a month, right? And we have many customers who are looking at transitioning who would be going from a couple $100 a month to around $1,000 a month. If you just look at the list prices. Now here's the thing. That's the list price. There is also what's called a flex price, and this is advertised on the website. You can see this on the pricing sheet on the website. If you're spending a certain amount with Oracle Corporation generally on whatever, it doesn't have to be our autonomous database. You could be spending it on other cloud services too. If you're spending a certain amount of Oracle with Oracle per month, I believe the threshold is $1,000 a month on anything, then you get a deeply discounted price. The price goes way down from that intro list price. And also, if you have any Oracle database on-premise licenses, there's a whole separate pricing scheme for what we call BYOL, bring your own license. If you bring on-premise licenses into the cloud, you get another dramatic drop in price, right? So now you're talking about price points that are way below what you see for the list. And then if you're engaged with an Oracle sales rep, they also have discretion to negotiate on price, and they can potentially give you deals as well. So it is possible to get that autonomous transaction processing price down to something that is analogous to what you see in Schema Service and Exadata Express right now. And that's the first point I want to make. The second point I want to make is that many of the instances we're aware of running on Schema Service and Exadata Express are for non-prod. We do have customers certainly that are using it for production, important stuff, but many of them are dev, test, demo, things like that. As we interact with customers, we hear a lot about dev instances and test instances. And I think a lot of those could go to this always free ATP right out of the gate. So in that case, your price goes down from a couple hundred a month to zero, right? If it's non-prod, take it to free ATP for sure, right? And then your price goes down, actually, not up. So I guess the way I would answer that is, at present, the story is a little more nuanced than Joel, how you characterized it. It's a little more nuanced. There are many things you can do to get something below the ATP list price. And if it's non-prod, just take it to always free ATP and get your price to zero, right?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect, Todd. I hate to say it. I think I'm going to have to end it, but I think based upon demand, I would like to maybe do an update with you for the Apex community, maybe in a few months. If there are any announcements, there certainly was just a wealth of interest in this, and just really thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to come back and do it again.
Okay. Thanks everyone for attending. The video should be posted online probably within a day or so.